we start the annual business meeting section of our meeting. And I know that there may be some on this call that are dual members, and we sincerely appreciate you for making that commitment of both the Arizona Psychiatric Society and the Arizona Society for Child and Adolescent Psychiatry. So I would give a brief opportunity for anybody who wanted to jump back and leave our meeting to check on the other one, that opportunity. The ASCAP members should have received that meeting link directly from incoming President Dr. Don or Secretary Dr. Webb. I do have just some brief housekeeping for people who joined us during the awards. You start out on mute. I will ask you to please identify yourself when you speak. If you'll open up your participant window in the chat box, the participant window at the bottom has some controls to raise your hand. If we're not seeing you wave or indicate that you wish to speak, you do have the ability to take yourself off of mute. If there's some background noise, I may have to place you on mute just to control that, but you should have the ability to come off of it if you have something to say. We are recording the meeting for those members who are not able to join us live this evening. And if you have any technical problems, you can text me at 602-316-3241. But the good news is if you're on the call, hopefully all those hurdles have been overcome. We thank you very much for your patience and courtesy as we all adapt to a virtual format. If you can share your video, we'd love to see your face. We miss seeing you and look forward to the day when we can see you live in person again. Before I turn it over to President Dr. Fowles to give his president's report and run the business meeting, in case we do need to take a counted vote, I'm going to run a little icebreaker of a Zoom poll to see if polling will work for us this evening. That's not the one I meant to share. I actually have something more fun to ask you. This is a little icebreaker poll. If there's a silver lining to the pandemic, and you can choose as many of these results as you want, what has it been for you? And if I haven't provided an answer that fits for you, feel free to share something in the chat. Some of the choices were reading good books, cleaning out closets. Every time I bump into a retired harnish family member, I feel very inadequate by all their clean closets. Learning something new, you found a creative outlet, you spent more time with your family that's at home, you loved binge watching, hopefully not something that you're ashamed to admit to watching. It's been encouraging to see improved access to telehealth. You've enjoyed hiking, biking, and being outdoors. I threw that one out there for Dr. Arndt, whose adventures I'm always love watching. Reducing air pollution because we're staying home, or wearing pajamas and flip-flops.
Or how about learning how many distractions I have in life? Or
there you go. That's one for the chat, Dr. Sater. So I'm trying to get an idea from the voting. So if you could, I'm going to share the results, but if you could let us know if you weren't able to use the polling, then we'll know if we have to take a hard count on any. So learning something new and hiking, biking, and being outdoors. Those were good choices. So Dr. Fowles, it looks like voice voting will be our best option. I think we had, unless they just didn't see a choice to vote for, we didn't have a majority of people vote on the polling option.
Okay. So are we all set for the business meeting, Terry?
We are. Thank you.
All right, so we'll kick it off here and get started. So again, thank you all for participating tonight. And we've got several things to get through here, including election of officers and hearing about our finances and some strategic planning efforts. But I wanted to start off by giving just a president's report over the past year and a half, actually. COVID has definitely changed everything. And one of the things that changed was, it not only interrupted our annual meeting being live, but also changed the timeframes for officers. So my term is gone until now, and then Dr. Shotwell will take over. And part of the rationale for doing that was there was so much going on during COVID, and so many moving parts that to make these changes as we normally did it was almost unfair to ask someone to come in the middle of it with all things going on. And so we deliberated and came to that conclusion. And so I'll have a few more comments on COVID here shortly, but I think just looking at our organization here, and we've had a real interest in our membership and recruiting new members, retaining old ones, and certainly COVID has impacted that. It's impacted a lot of organizations in terms of especially members not renewing, and that's been an issue. But I think it's something that we can certainly build on. We've got a great resident group that has really stepped up over the past year plus, and I think that's really something that can help us to increase membership. But that's one of the things that I think we're really very interested in. You will see our financial report here soon, and from Dr. Volson. And Terry's done a nice job, keeping that information in order. We're fine. Our balance sheet looks good. Our annual financials look, pretty darn good. We had the benefit of a CAF grant from the APA and some other things. But I'll get more into that too as we talk about our strategic planning. Some highlights I've already mentioned, in terms of our workings with the APA nationally. Dr. Sater, Curry, Alexander, and Shotwell have done fantastic work representing us on a national scene. And it's really important because, one of the things I learned when I went back to DC for an annual APA meeting in November was how, once you get west of the Mississippi, they tend to forget about you. But these four have made sure they don't, and that's a good thing. So, and another highlight, as I mentioned earlier, was just the participation of our residents and new professionals in our organization, and really, the new lifeblood that we so dearly need. I think probably the one of the biggest things that we've accomplished over the last year and a half has been increased visibility in the community. Some of that was our own doing by choice. Some of it was COVID, honestly. And, the pandemic hit. Dr. Arndt took a lead on our disaster response team. We also, though, got pretty involved with our government and community, and had several meetings, regular meetings with a coalition of other associations, including the Arizona Council of Human Service Providers, the Psychological Association, and some others. And the purpose of those calls was really to come together to see how we could offer our services and help the community during these, pretty trying times. The other thing that we've been pretty active in doing is reaching out to the governor's office and the legislature and the state agencies, as well as health plans, health systems, and others, to let them know, we're here, we're available. Anything we can do to help, we want to. And I think, the response to those outreaches has been very positive. Um, as president, I've had the opportunity to participate on calls with the governor's office every 2 or 3 weeks. He's had a group of, it depends on the call, but anywhere from 25 to 100 business leaders in our state to really talk about the pandemic, to give an update on where it's going from his perspective, but also, our ideas, suggestions. And, one of the very positive things that came about during those calls was his executive order for telehealth. We were very strong proponents for that. And, his background has been, it's Cold Stone Creamery, an entrepreneur building a company. So he's as he used to say when I first met him, he's a jobs and education guy. And I told him, well, this is when he was treasurer of the state. I said, if you ever become governor, you're going to get awfully interested in healthcare because it's about a third of your budget, and has all sorts of fun things for you. So he looked at me like, yeah, right. Like, but now that he's been governor for 6 years, he fully acknowledges it and has been incredibly supportive of initiatives like telehealth. And I think one update for everyone is, so on one of these calls, I asked him, about the future of telehealth. It's great what he did as an executive order, but when the pandemic subsides and eventually goes away, how about telehealth? And his comment was, as long as he's governor, his executive order stands, pandemic or not. And his only question back to me was, he said, the only question I have for you, doctor, is why did it take your industry so long to get to this? And which I totally agree with. But we've definitely had input at that level, and the legislature. More recently, we've got people in our legislature and our governor who have actually learned a lot and become very interested in mental health and substance use issues, in part because it's impacted them personally, and with people they know, friends, loved ones of friends and stuff like that. So when it starts impacting you, there's a whole nother level of interest. And so 3 or 4 weeks ago, he actually made a presentation at Hamilton High School on suicide. And he was there along with Dr. Christ and Jamie Snyder, who runs Access, some other people. And he asked me if I would stand with him and the group there just as he made his presentation. So I did, and was really impressed with, we've got some leaders in our government who are really interested in these issues and want to support whatever they can do to further advance them. We also got some inadvertent publicity for NBC and NBC Telemundo. As I was walking out from this event, a guy in jeans and a t-shirt asked if he could interview me, and I was feeling kind of sorry for him because he so I did, and he did a great job. And I couldn't help. I asked him, I said, I can't help but ask, who is it that you work for? And he goes, well, NBC TV and NBC Telemundo. I went, oh, okay. So anyway, those little things though really do get the word out about who we are, what we do. So we're going to be doing a series of little things like that, little interviews. And this one happened to be on suicide, but they're very interested in what we do. We've also been involved at the legislative level. We, at our annual legislative meeting, which Dr. Alexander did a terrific job of chairing and running, we heard from Senator Kate Brophy-McGee and Representative Dr. Amish Shah, and talking about their views on health, mental health, and so forth, and gave us a chance to get to know them better. And a lot of question and answer. It was actually a really good event. And we don't take a position politically as an association, but I think we want to support those legislators who are sensitive to and supportive of health and behavioral healthcare issues. So as a personal thing, I had a fundraiser for Kate Brophy-McGee at my house back in January that some of you attended, and definitely appreciate that support, and as she did very much. One of the biggest things that happened on this front in terms of increasing our visibility in the community was parity. So as you all probably know, a bill passed this past February called Jake's Law, and it basically furthers the parity agenda in our state. And basically what it requires, parity's been the law of the land for quite some time. And what this does is it requires the payers in all markets to report and show that they are complying with parity standards as is the law of the land. So we were very hugely involved in supporting that whole effort and helping this bill come about. Several of us attended Senator Brophy McGee had a work group that was a huge work group of payers, health system people, correctional people, just a ton of different people from different walks of life to focus on. This was really on services in schools, but it bled over into parity big time. And so we, as an organization, were instrumental, and actually Senator Brophy McGee asked us to chair a subgroup of payers and providers to come up with a bill that was acceptable to all, which we were able to do. And so we've made a lot of progress there. There's more work to be done. And going forward, we're in terms of this law, now the rules making starts to take place. And we want to be front and center, make sure that the rules get made and implemented the way they're supposed to, because even though you have a law, the devil's really in the details, and it's really in the rules making where the life is breathed into the law and becomes real. So to help us do that, we've hired an additional lobbyist, Alexis Glasscock, who is starting with us and has already gotten involved. And we're having interactions with the Department of Insurance, whose job it is to make sure this law gets implemented properly. But this year, we're going to be looking at things like rate setting, network sufficiency, prior auth, and getting into the weeds a little bit more than we did last year. So, very exciting. We have huge community support. This bill passed 4 committees in the legislature and the full House and Senate without a single nay vote, which is almost unheard of. So there's a huge amount of support. And the governor, usually mental health doesn't get spoken to in State of the State speeches, but in this one it did. And he actually mentioned parity and the need for insurers to do what they're supposed to be doing. And he's quite serious about it, I can tell you. So we got work to do, but we think we've got a road to keep improving this. So we'll keep you apprised on all those efforts. You got a great person in Jasleen coming on board as the next president. I've got to know her a little bit and better and work with her some. She's a terrific person, a lot of great energy. She's going to be a wonderful president. And I think we'll be in for another good year and a half here with her at the helm. So in closing my little spiel here and my little update, I did want to thank everyone for all their work and support, because the thing about our association, it's really it's a great association. We've got our members are really wonderful people, not just professionally but personally. One of the things that's been eye-opening for me is in this role has just been how good our people really are. I've been really amazed and humbled to see, and how the work becomes not so much about them, but how they can help and make things better. And so those efforts have been really very deeply appreciated. And our organization is only as strong as we make it. It's the members who make this and make or break it. And, we got, some older guys like me and some younger people like Jasleen coming, and then some residents too, like Nick and Larry. We've got a good mix here and a lot to build on in the future. And in addition to thanking everyone for all their hard work, just encouraging everyone to keep pitching in and keep making it better. And we will be fine. So with that, I will stop, and we can move on here. The next item on the agenda here is the election of officers. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Terry. So, as I mentioned, the executive officers have supported an extension of their leadership year from May through October, largely due to COVID. And I want to thank them all again for their service. Many of them are continuing in their service in leadership in our nominated slate, as you see. But please join me in thanking them. They definitely appreciate it. And representing the resident fellow members from each of our psychiatric residency programs are Dr. Arndt, Dr. Erickson from Creighton Valley Wise, and Dr. Jones from U of A Phoenix. So our great team of executive officers, Dr. Maya Heck, secretary, who's done a phenomenal job, as has Dr. Elena Wolfson, treasurer, and Dr. Gagandeep Singh as vice president, Dr. Shotwell as president-elect. Dr. Sater finishes his 5th year, and Dr. Jason Curry continues the 2nd year of his term through 2021 as APA Assembly representatives for Arizona. And all of you, thank you tremendously, and joining me in thanking them all for their time and really invaluable contributions for supporting our society through a very trying time during the pandemic. It's been my pleasure to serve along with them. And now for the nominations going forward, I'm honored to present for your consideration. And I believe Terry has it listed up there. But real quickly, President is Jocelyn Shotwell, President-elect Jocelyn Shotwell, and that just has to do with our timing here. Vice President Maya Heck, Treasurer Larry Meekum, Secretary Yazini Shrivitsal, and then co-resident fellow member representatives include Nathan Jones from U of A Phoenix, Alexandria Lexi Erickson from Creighton University, Maricopa Medical Center, Phoenix, and Ramsha Rao from U of A Tucson. And then finally, as mentioned before, our assembly representatives, Dr. Marwa, Dr. Curry, and Dr. Alexander, with their terms mentioned there. So what I'd like to do now is request and entertain a motion to approve the nominated slate as presented. So if I could ask for a motion, please.
So moved.
And a second.
I second.
Any discussion? Very good. So we'll take a vote, and all those in favor signal so by saying aye.
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 All opposed signal so by saying nay. The motion carries. Very good. Thank you all, and congratulations to our new officers. Next up is Dr. Wolfson with a financial report. Elena, if you would please take it away.
So Dr. Fowles, Dr. Wilson has let me know she can't make it. So I didn't know if you would like me to do it, or if you, I believe it's in the materials that you have as well, and I'm glad to screen share it if you think that that would be helpful to our audience.
I think my own suggestion is, Terry, if you could give a high-level summary to the group and hit the high points, and then we can, and if more details are needed, people can ask questions.
Yeah, and so everyone knows our virtual meeting site on the track related to the business meeting, the financial report, the treasurer's report, and our year-end financials as of the end at fiscal year end December 31st, 2019. They're all there if you'd like to see greater detail. As Dr. Fowles mentioned, though, we do remain in stable financial health thanks to your careful stewardship and your commitment to membership. We know that what people's abilities, how what financial impacts might flow through to physicians. We know that the next year may require us to be nimble or to be aware of what's coming. But the good news is we do have reserves. We pay our bills annually without having to use those reserves. And so that's good news for our membership. We received some funding from the APA that's helping us with our outreach this year. The CAF grant, as Dr. Fowles mentioned, supports the retention of that additional contract lobbyist and our participation in the Arizona Healthcare Advocacy Coalition, both of which we think are strong partnerships and representation towards making sure that the rules and regulations implementation stages of Jake's Law are done well, or as well as they can be, with the voice of psychiatry participating. We also received an innovative grant of $4,500 and we are developing, thanks to some great leadership out of University of Arizona College of Medicine, Tucson's Addiction Psychiatry Fellowship. Dr. Gum is helping a planning committee develop 3 online modules for our members to support required opioid education that will be hopefully really beneficial to you as psychiatric physicians. I know with that being a requirement of your continued licensure, it will be a nice thing to see some education developed that's specifically good for you. Our tax return was prepared on time without any kind of extension, even though extensions were granted. We rolled one of our 2 laddered certificates of deposit into the money market account. So right now our financial reserves are mainly held in money market. I think just kind of waiting to see what the financial markets might do and where that amount that we can leave invested would best be placed. We really don't play with the money very much. We just do kind of laddered conservative certificates of deposits. And we know that we continue to look for ways to recruit and retain members. We're really appreciative of the commitment of our residents to growing our membership numbers. And we'd like to know more about how those residents, as they begin their early career years, what we could do to continue to make membership in the society make sense for them. So that wraps up our financial report.
All right, open it up for any questions or comments.
Don, I got a question. The Arizona Psychiatric Society, are we a 501(c)(3)?
Dr. Pastani, we are a 501c6, but in our strategic planning, which Dr. Fowles will probably talk about, one of the things that was thrown out there was the possibility of the society forming a foundation as a possible means to support some additional outreach, allow our members to contribute some things that we might do to support residents or medical students or other outreach that a foundation, or even work collaboratively with other patient advocacy organizations. So, but we are a professional trade association. So our dues, as you know, are not, that means our dues are only deductible as a business expense and only in the amount that is not used for lobbying.
Okay. Terry, you wanna, Don, maybe you can talk about the 501(c) and why I asked that question. So you can help out so everyone listening can know why there is a tidal wave that's coming.
Yeah, maybe you could, maybe you can shed
Well,
some.
it's the yuppies. The yuppies are getting old. And 501(c) is the required minimum distribution. And that is the tidal wave I'm talking about.
Okay, yeah.
So they are the ones who right now, when they turn 70 and a half, all the money that they saved in the KEO, the IRS mandates that they must withdraw the money. Of the money that they can withdraw. And let's face it, our profession, no matter how difficult it has been to practice in, it still has provided us with a comfortable living. So 100,000 of what is required every year to be withdrawn from a KEO plan can go tax-free, totally tax-free. It does not affect our income tax returns. It's from the right hand to the left hand. And it has to be a 501(c) corporation. So I hope I explained that as to what a 501(c) is versus a 501(c) is.
You have
Yeah.
Dr. Bastani, and it's great information.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, Dr. Fowles, I didn't.
Oh, no, you're fine. Thank you very much for that, though. Absolutely.
Being a 501(c)(6) does allow us to conduct some lobbying activities. So that's why we start out as that, but there are societies that have both, and there's definitely a benefit to considering having a foundation to supplement alongside of the society.
Well, and most of the not-for-profit providers in our community and nationwide, for that matter, are 501(c)(3)s. You know, in view of some of these considerations. So,
For that input, Dr. Bastani, I think we'll definitely look into it further as the year progresses. And Dr. Fowles Don has agreed to be pretty actively involved. So I think we're going to carry forward the strategic plan that was created in the past 3 to 4 months.
Jocelyn, I'm looking for another windmill.
Let's do it.
hey, when you find it, let me know. Any other questions or comments?
Just a comment with regard to the financial report, and I don't mean to get too far from our own APS report, but I know, Terry, as you were mentioning, the importance of our members remaining members, so we can continue to see that same or better support from APA as the dues come in. So I think it's important for all of us to hold our fellow psychiatrists accountable and make sure that we stay strong supporters of both APS and APA. I do also want to mention that APA additionally has had some difficulty remaining nimble throughout the year. I think some of the grants that we have received, even things through the APA Foundation, are perhaps going to be more limited, given that the foundation and also the PAC, Political Action Group, receives most of their funding in the year through the annual meeting from APA, of course. That didn't happen this year. So I think their coffers are cleaned out or reduced significantly, being that the annual meeting didn't happen. So maybe also a reminder to us, and me holding all of us accountable to make those contributions if possible, if your condition allows for it, to be generous back to the APA, both to the foundation and also to PAC. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone else? Going once? All right. Well, thank you, Terry, for doing that. Next up is kind of a new item for us. It's just a real quick summary of our strategic planning efforts the last few months. And so what this has been all about is, we're part of a larger organization, and there's a structure and a process and a way we do things, here at the local level based on that. And, you can be doing things time and time again and kind of get used to it. And every once in a while, it's good to take a time out and step back and ask yourself and ask ourselves, all right, where have we been? Where are we now? And where are we headed? Where do we really want to go? And part of the reason for that is there are myriad activities and things to consider, but to be effective, you can only concentrate on so much. And so what we wanted to do is go through a process with a group of people in our society and really ask those questions and try to get to, okay, what are the 2 or 3 things, 4 things max over the next couple of years we want to really focus on and try to get better at. And so we held several meetings over the last 3 or 4 or 5 months, and they were really good. People had really came loaded with good thinking, good ideas, suggestions, very constructive criticisms. And we really looked at our society as, how are we internally, where are our strengths, where are our weaknesses. And a couple of those areas had to do with organizational considerations, like Dr. Bastani mentioned. How are we best organized? And what committees do we really need? And what sort of society do we want? One way to do this is to please forgive me, and I don't know other, to have, more of a social club where we get together and do things, which is valuable. There's no question about that. There's, especially these days when we can't, it's even, you miss it. But the other thing though, too, along with that is, if we want to get things like parity done or, improve our membership, let's look at how we're organized. And maybe there's some things we're doing now that we don't need to do. Maybe there's some other things that we're not doing that we really should. And so we looked at from that standpoint, and we looked at our finances as well. We've been pretty stable over the last several years. It had, it hasn't grown much, but it hasn't lost anything either. And not everyone can say that. So our balance sheet actually looks pretty darn good. And so I think we're in pretty decent shape there. What came out of our process was really a focus on 4 areas. And the first one that the group felt was really important was membership, and doing things to strengthen and increase our membership in good ways. And a lot of what came out of that was, how can we make the society beneficial to our members? What can we do to attract people? And, a lot of things came out of that, and we'll put this probably into a summary report here soon that we'll go through this. But I think one of the things that really became clear is, if you're going to have a healthy organization and you want to have membership people coming and supporting it, then you have to do those things which interest them and engage them and connect them and make them want to support it. So, we may have great ideas, but our members may have other ideas. And it's real. So one of the things that really thought about is really soliciting their input and getting their ideas of how they'd like to see our society grow and evolve. The second one has to do with being more involved with the community and advocating on behalf of issues that are important to us. And I think one of the big things that we've done over the last couple of years is get us out of the office and more into the community, and really interacting with the governor's office, the legislature, and a number of you have been involved in those things. And I think the thing that has become really, really clear in all these activities is that we as psychiatrists, look, we don't have all the answers to everything. We may not be able to solve world hunger, but we do have our role, and we do have our expertise, and we have a very important role in the community. And I think as things have changed with the pandemic, but also opioids and an increased suicide rate and things like that, there's a growing recognition in the public, not just the governor and the legislature, but others, churches, schools, others who are going, my God, how do we address these problems? What do we do? And I think we as psychiatrists, again, not that we know everything, but we know what we know. And in our field, I think we have the best expertise, when it comes to thinking about problems, just one concrete example, people with complex medical and behavioral health problems, there's no one better suited to evaluate and treat people like that than we as psychiatrists. So there's a huge role. Our legislators and our governor's office loves hearing from us. They really, really do. I mean, we've met with them, we've talked with them, and it's really clear they want more information from us, more communication, and so we're going to take them up on it and be involved in effective ways. The third area of priority after membership and community and advocacy is parity. So that's a little bit of a narrow focus compared to the other two, but it's an important one. And I think as we've gotten into this, you assume that when something becomes a federal law that everyone's going to follow it, but you all know that's not true too. And so we have really been working hard to make parity a reality, not just a law on paper. And there is a lot more work to be done. I think, some of these network sufficiency things that the health plans have are really problems in the way they go about doing prior auth and some of the things that you all are well versed in. They are really problematic and have become barriers to people getting treatment. I think the lesson that we've learned is we need to take those issues on hard and not back off, but we also need to do it in a way which is respectful and considered and always treating other people as human beings. Because I'll tell you, part of the thing about being effective in this is the way you live and behave. And if you set a good example, people tend to, they respect that and they want you around and you become a constructive voice. If you're always hurling hand grenades in or criticizing everyone or being a negative force, it's just the reverse. And so I think one of the things we've learned through the process, and the people from the National APA office have been great. Tim Clements is, the best example. He's come in and very smart, knows parity upside down, inside out, but he has learned too, you get a lot more bees with honey. And, so it's good to treat people well and always be respectful. And so I think that's been part of what we've learned and what we've been doing, but it's going to be a huge area for us over the next 2 or 3 years. And I think what we want to do is really get into the weeds of some of these issues that we know are barriers, and then work with the Department of Insurance, the governor's office, and some key legislators to really strengthen this law and make it real in our state. And then the last one, the fourth one, after membership, community advocacy, and parity, is finance. And I hesitated to put this on here because 3 is plenty. Excuse me, but I think it's important. And I think there's, with more money, we can do more, frankly. It's just a reality of life. It's, the reality of the world we live in. And it's not that we have to, go bonkers or anything, but I think there's some things we can do to strengthen the financial health of the organization. And Terry had one, in our planning process, had one really good idea, and many others for that matter, but one that really resonated was to consider a fundraiser that we would hold at some point when we can get back together, but a fundraiser that would help raise funds for our society and focused on some of the initiatives that we are, trying to advance. I'll tell you another big one is the involuntary law in our state, which, in the process it supports, which in my opinion is very broken and needs to be addressed too. But to be effective with these things, we need lobbying help. We need other support that money can really help with. So we're thinking, I've been thinking of a fundraiser of some sorts. There's, one idea is to do it around something like suicide, the increased suicide rate, which is really a problem in our country right now. And I didn't know this until the governor told me a couple of weeks ago, and maybe you all know it. No, but the leading cause of death in kids in our state from ages 10 to 14 is suicide. And so the thought was, hey, let's get psychiatrists involved. Let's do what we can. Let's raise some funds that would go dedicated to what we're doing, as well as supporting other initiatives to help with, one of the things is more services in schools, for example. And so I've already talked to a couple of keynote speaker type people who might come in and even bands who would play some music for us, and to really try to rally the community around a cause that we as psychiatrists felt was important, and probably involve some other people too, like the Arizona Council and the Psychological Association, because this is, I think the thing that we're learning too, as important as our society is, as the saying goes, we're all in this together, but we're all in this together to make it better for ourselves and our families and the people we live with in our communities. So, we got a lot done in our planning process. We came up with some really good ideas. And we'll get some notes and a review of that out to the society as a whole, and really, start to really think about what are some next steps that we can do to make those things that we talked about in our planning retreats real. There's already some really good ideas, some action steps, but the work's not completely done, and there'll be more to come over the next several months. So. That was the report. It's a little different activity. I think it's a good thing to do every couple, 3 years, to step back and maybe annually take another look at, hey, how are we doing with our objectives? We got 4 of them. Are we getting to where we think we should be? And what do we need to do differently? And really trying to make these things that rally our membership, make it worth their while to support us, the organization financially, but also to get involved. And, it's one thing to criticize and complain. It's a whole nother thing to problem solve and make something happen. And I think one of the things we want to be known as an organization that actually, not only cares, but actually cares enough to roll up its sleeves and get in the trenches and do some work and make some things happen for the community. So that's it on the strategic planning front. And there'll be more on that to come. So, so we will have a legislative update presented at the end of the day on Saturday. We've got Tim Clements from the APA National, as well as Joe Abadi and myself, and Jaceline will be speaking, and we've organized it. So hopefully it will make sense and be coherent to you all, but I think you'll learn a lot from that. And I hope you'll be able to join for that session. It's an important one, as well as for the rest of the day. We've got some great speakers tomorrow, and I hope you're able to join us for that, for them. So anyway, if you like, please join us at 8 a.m. to settle in online and take some time to visit our virtual exhibit hall from 8 to 8:50. And then we'll welcome everyone to the formal meeting at 8:50 with the educational sessions beginning at 9 a.m. So is anyone have any additional business they'd like to bring up or discuss at this time?
Don, I would just like to take a minute to thank you for your service and everything that you've done for all of us and the organization this year. And I personally want to thank you for sticking on in the position for an extra 6 months. I think that definitely was something that helped me a great deal, and I'm sure it kept our society more on track, as you were able to note that with other clinical duties, it may have been harder for some of us to step into that role. So just thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I hope we can continue to have you engaged with us, and I'll be bothering you quite a bit in the coming months for questions and input and feedback.
Well, Jaceline, thank you very much. And it has been a pleasure to get to know you better and work with you. You're just a delight to work with, and you're so good at what you do. I think you're going to be a fabulous president. And I think everyone should just be very grateful that you stepped up and wanted to do this. So, and I look forward to working with you ongoing here, and anything I can do to help and support and make you and the organization successful, I certainly want to do. So thanks again.
Dr. Fowles, I echo her thanks and share my thanks too for all of the members that stay committed to leadership and serving. You've especially made great contributions and made such a difference on our efforts on parity and relationship building and getting us through a very tough time. And as I've said before, please thank Susie for us too.
Yeah, she's the one to really thank, No, but thank you, Terry. I really appreciate that. And thank you for, I think a lot of people on the phone know how hard you work for us and all the great things you do, but boy, I haven't experienced it firsthand. You really do. And it is very much appreciated. And thank you for putting up with me too. I know that's not always the easiest thing to do. I can get a little, I want to get things done and band of torpedoes full speed ahead, but thank you for your patience and everything that you've done. It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to continuing to work with you too.
Oh, thank you. I see hearts and nice things all around. Before we all leave, because I know you all will appreciate this message, I just want to really ask everyone who's a member to take a minute to participate in some way in our virtual exhibit hall. Our annual sponsors were very kind when we canceled a live meeting. They didn't draw back their financial commitment to us annually, and a couple extra sponsors have gambled on this virtual opportunity. So if you could stop by their chat or their Zoom rooms and say that you appreciate that they did that for us, I would also appreciate you doing that.
All right, gang. Well, it's that time to entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting, and looking forward to seeing you in the morning. So could I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second?
Seconded. Thank you, Don. Thank you, everyone.
All in favor? Aye.
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 And anyone who's
No.
opposed, we're going to put you on mute. Anyway, if anyone's opposed, please say so. All right. Thanks, everyone. Good meeting.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time and look forward to seeing you tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you, Terry.
Thank you, Dr. Sater. Thank you, everyone.
Good
See you
night.
bright and early.
Shabbat shalom.
Bye.